Hi, everyone. Welcome to Around the Ladder. I'm Erika Steinberg, and this is the podcast about career paths that don't follow the usual script. We've all heard about climbing the corporate ladder, but careers often zigzag, they stall, they take unexpected turns, sometimes a lot of unexpected turns. So if your journey hasn't been in a straight climb, you're in the right place. I love the idea of going around the ladder and finding a path that fits who you really are. So on this show, I get to talk with people who have taken unconventional routes, either by choice or by chance, and they found success on their own terms. Today's guest is Jessica Campos. Jessica is a dynamic entrepreneur whose journey is anything but conventional. Originally from Puerto Rico, Jessica began her career as a divorce and construction lawyer before making a bold pivot into the world of wellness marketing. She went on to become an award-winning marketer for a household wellness brand valued in the hundreds of millions. Now she's based in Austin, Texas. She runs her own successful wellness marketing agency, and she also leads a thriving local networking community called Hey ATX. Her story is one of fearless reinvention, strategic brilliance, and a deep passion for empowering others. Jessica, I'm so happy to have you on here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful introduction.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's so funny because people who are, I only work in the law firm world. So people might assume that we met back when you were a lawyer, which
Mhm.
is not true. We've met only recently because of the chapter that I read about you in Boat Burning for Beginners. So I thought I know a little bit about your career, of course, both from speaking with you and from reading your chapter in the book. And I'm waiting for the longer book to come out because I think that there's so much more of your story to tell and it'll be so interesting and I think helpful to so many people. Let's start today at the beginning, your career in law.
Mhm.
What drew you to that path today? What drew you to that path rather? And I mean, law, of course, having a law degree is so helpful. So how did it shape the way you think and work today? Do you still
Mhm.
use it?
Mhm. All right. So that was a loaded question. I
I
wanna
know.
wanna start with
Sorry.
I wanna start with how it started. And it's kind of interesting because for the very first time, I actually told the truth on why it started on that book. So it's kind of like I'm still nervous on sharing this piece, but I guess that's what happens when you get to be in full authenticity and own your path, right?
No.
So the unfiltered reason on why I started, it was because I grew up in a rough environment. I wanted to make it better. I just, as a little child, I remember like this can't be it. And, in fact, I would visit my dad in prison. And I was like, I just don't like this. Like, why he's there, all these questions, all these insecurities that it created. So I will never forget, Erica, when I was 14 years old, I created my timeline. And then I started like, researching. This is by asking people. There's no internet at that point. So I'm like, how can one be a lawyer? And it was a summertime, and I applied for a summer job, and they sent me to the court to work. And that work I did, in fact, gave me the access to people. You know, one of the things that I like to highlight about my background, and I share this with my kids a lot, is I didn't really have any sort of like, family member or even a mentor. I had to seek out for myself. And um, being a first generation professional, then entrepreneur, wasn't necessarily easy, but there was always something in me that I was like, this can't be it. This can't be it. So that's actually the long story short of how it started. I just needed to find what was the it that was calling me to find like how can people become professional, like how can I have a better life? How can I give that to my kids at some point in my life?
The fact that you started asking that question and looking into it at age 14
Mhm,
is, to me, just indicates the drive that has stayed with you
mhm,
throughout your career and throughout your life. I mean,
mhm,
that's astounding. I have a 15-year-old daughter at home and she's not asking those questions yet. My goodness.
mhm.
So But that drive just has, I mean, now you've made so many pivots. So what what was going on for you when you did pivot from law to
Mhm,
the wellness industry? Because that to me really set you on this path that you're still on now and,
mhm.
blazing this trail.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, part of writing the book, there was a process when we were sent out this list of questions. And that made me internalize that whatever helped me to transition from law to marketing was exactly what helped me to transition when I was in the border or kind of sometimes like in this like verge of making the pivot to the next step. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that is when I was 14, I knew that I wanted to do something differently. And I actually enrolled myself into a boarding school that was a special school for science and math.
Mhm.
And the first week, I
And
had
you loved
applied.
it, right?
Yeah, well, and the first week, oh my goodness, Erica, I felt like, and I read this in the book, in Espanol, there's a saying, like a cucaracha en un balde de gallinas, which is basically, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. And
You gotta give the translation for that one because it's a good one.
so it's, yeah, I need to find the exact translation, but it's like, there's like a cucaracha that is in the middle of hands that are going to eat.
It's not gonna do well.
Um, and then I'm like, this is not it. I'm not, this is not for me. All these girls that are here, talking about, some of them had these like giant cell phones. I'm like, I felt so inadequate. And a friend of mine said, well, I'm just going to go back home because I know that a lot of people applied and there's a long waiting list and I don't feel like I should be here. And then I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So there was this time of paid phones. So I called my mom from this, using the paid phone. And then I'm like, Mom, I just don't think, I don't think I belong here. I don't think I should be here. And I think you just should pick me up because there's other kids that should be here. And she was like, no, I knew that this was coming. They prepared us during the orientation. So I'm not picking you up and this conversation is over. Bang. So my realization is my mom burned the boats for me. And to this day, whenever like I go back to that transition between law and marketing, it was when the recession hit the economy and I was doing mortgages and working in construction law.
Mhm.
So we were told to wait a couple of months. It's going to come back. Well, it never came back. It never came back. Although that transition didn't happen overnight, I kept having my career as my plan B, but this question kept me inspired. Like, what if I could actually find a way where I could advocate, help people without stealing, without needing to be licensed in every state I move? And that's how I came with this inspiration to try something differently. And then I got given a golden ticket.
What was that? What was the golden ticket?
So that golden ticket was I moved out of my island and I worked at a temp agency. They found me this gig and then finally the company brought me in. So I was practicing law, but it was more on a real estate side,
Mm.
revising contracts, all this amazing creative work.
Very.
Yeah. Revising contracts and revising, for this property management company. We had a huge portfolio, and I didn't love it, but I felt like, you know what, this is not a bad option. It would give me like a chance to keep actually my law practice, law firm in Puerto Rico opened
Mhm.
because I removed myself from the payroll while we were waiting.
Yeah.
So, the interesting thing is, I became pregnant, and then during my maternity leave, they eliminated my position, and I was given a year of severance.
Oh.
A door closes, and you never know what doors will open, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually how the beginning of the transition started. It started not with good news. It started with a lot of uncertainty. I had no idea what I was going to do. My only plan was to rest. Now, this part is kind of interesting for career moms out there. You know, I think you and I talk about this when we
think we
met,
did, yeah.
right? I was like, well, this means I should be a stay-at-home mom. This means I'm going to have the chance to spend more time with my baby. And then, oh my goodness, I feel terrible for saying this, but it is the truth. I would try to go to the library and doing this circle time. I'm like, I'm not.
Get me a note.
No, no. This is just. I'm not. I'm not that woman. I'm not that mom. I'm not going to be that. And I needed to go through that, and there was a lot of guilt around that, right? Because sometimes, like, you want so badly to be the mom, and then I'm like, no, this is just not going to happen.
And you're going to be a different mom. You're not going to be that
Exactly.
mom. You're going to be
It's
your kind of mom.
exactly, exactly. So I did try the mom thing, I swear I did try the mom thing. But something kept just calling me in and I'm like, no, I had my career, I had my practice, and I climbed the ladder in the sense of I built my own path. In fact, the path happened. I did start with a law firm, but then I became a single mom. And they wanted me to bill 80 hours and still be able to manage having daycare for my baby. And they said, you cannot come to the office with the baby at night. And I'm like, how can I bill the 80 hours with all the lunches and the entertainment that you guys have? In addition to, I don't have anybody who can watch my baby after 12 hours of childcare.
Yeah.
So that's actually how I just, branched out. I started as a freelancer. And then from freelancer, I just met somebody and then I was like, hey, if you ever need, a new perspective on your cases, I am more than happy to help you out. And then they handed me like the very first construction project. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I know somebody who has done it. So I'm just going to give them a call.
Yep. And that's how you learn and grow.
You have to say yes. You have to say yes. Everybody needs to start in zero at some point.
Mhm.
Had it not be for me actually being vulnerable and say, hey, listen, for transparency, you will be my first client on this field. But I promise you that when you hire somebody new, you're gonna get like the most inspired and motivated person to help you win. We're gonna win. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna just work endlessly until I really support what you need. And that's what they needed. They trusted that I had this kind of like this desire. And I was young. I was young. I was even like under 30.
That's okay. That's okay. And so now, though, now you're in marketing,
Mhm.
still in marketing. You have built this reputation. You are helping businesses grow. So you're still helping people grow. You're still doing all of the things that you started out doing. Which
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
that to me is this common thread. What you're working mostly with small businesses?
Mhm. Yes,
So
I work with small businesses.
so what are some of the strategies that you've used with your clients
Mhm.
that consistently move the needle for them?
Mhm. No, it's interesting because you asked for the intersectionality between what we learn in law school
Yeah.
and then what I do. Excuse me one second. And then that is storytelling. That is storytelling. So when I work with clients and then this happens, even for those who are listening, and if you want to branch out or even like promote your law firm, at the end of the day, it's all about a story that you are sharing with your audience.
Mhm.
So there's actually a lot of similarities when we are creating a campaign or a strategy or a brand marketing plan, which is okay, you tell me, how do you perceive the way that you help people? But here's what happens, right? the same way with that we do as advocators, you listen, but then you find how would people perceive that story, and you get to be that intermediary person to translate that story, to make the
Mhm.
story in a way that is ready to be received.
Yeah.
So that's a way that I get to do, and still use what I learned. I also love researching. And that's actually one of the reasons why I feel that my clients who are especially in the health space, biohacking space, longevity space, they really love that I take the time to study
Hmm.
and to write. And then I ask questions and they're like, oh my gosh, usually no other marketing agency takes the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be
That
reading
law school
everything.
training.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, yes. I love the research. I feel like once you are a learner, you are a lifelong learner.
Mhm.
Which is a skill that will be with you everywhere you go. It doesn't matter what you do. So that actually is a good segue to talk about, attorneys have such a blend of different skills that are transferable. You have the storytelling, you have the communication, you have the negotiation, skills. Heck, talking about working under pressure, um, the ability to have a poker face. Those skills
I never even
paid off.
thought about that one. That's a good one. I never thought about that one. Yep.
Yeah. This reminded me, I actually have a couple of clients who are lawyers, and I was creating content for one of my friends. We went to law school together, and then she moved to Texas, and then she transferred her license. So I get to work for her, and so we were creating this content session. And then her name is Brenda, was Brenda. Your poker face is so good. Now it's a little bit too serious. Let's just give me a smile. And she's like, you know what I realized? I realized that I have this thing that I don't really smile when I work. And it's the poker face, right? Like you're told, like you have to stay sober, you have to stay without making any reaction or any impression. It's like, okay, we have to change this.
You need to show a little something.
A little something, a little
Yeah.
something. And she was like so grateful because I'm like, you know what? I didn't think about this. Now that you realize it, because in their pictures, I was looking at the camera, right? At the pictures, I'm like, this is too serious. Like, if you want to be a little bit more human and approachable, we're not in court, okay? This is just us.
Yeah. And you're scaring me.
Yeah, yeah. She was like so like way too poker face. I was
Yeah.
like, I get it, I get it. Let's just show a little bit of authenticity, like real you.
So you maybe have this reminds me, you probably have a zillion of them, but what would you share maybe a favorite success story, like a client
Mm,
or a campaign or something that has really stuck with you that you just love?
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about this. I think your audience will really love the story of a teacher. I worked with a teacher that wanted to pivot, that wanted to just do something different. And he was an English teacher.
Mhm.
And this was actually before the pandemic, like way, way long time ago, I would say, probably um 2012. He started like really embarking the journey. And then I got to see how he basically created one curriculum for homeschool parents that wanted to teach kids English, that one curriculum for all the grades. And it was fascinating to see that with one product that he filmed from his house, his family was working with packaging the curriculum and the booklets and everything.
Mhm.
And I saw that brand from the time when they were just the first six figures to the last time we talked, he was at $2.4 million.
Wow.
One thing and one thing. And that story, it's still with me because it shows that you can actually monetize your skills. And very often, that path, we just get to listen to so many voices and we complicate it for no reason.
Hmm.
And with his story, I always just share that with my clients too. It's just like, you don't need a lot of things. You just really need one thing that the market needs.
Yeah.
And if you can fulfill that demand, you don't have to be flashy. In fact, the first million happened after we did one thing. We created a Facebook group because he didn't have a community where the moms could collaborate.
Oh,
Mhm. That was the first thing we did.
yeah.
And then once the pandemic hit, now it was like definitely this was like the perfect storm for them because everybody needed to do homeschool. And then now like the searches, came to his company and they definitely, doubled their business because of that. But had it not be for that early stages of consistent, effort, all he wanted was to replace his income as a teacher. So it didn't really take too long to replace that. But he never thought he was going to be, embarking in this multi-million dollar business.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great story. I love that.
Mhm,
I love that.
mhm, mhm,
So tell me something. When you launched your agency is called Marketing for Greatness. What were some of the early challenges that you faced? Because
mhm.
it, you've had so many changes. And so I figured that it when I read about it in the book, in boat burning, it sounds like, oh, everything's been so smooth. It just went from one thing to another to another. And we know, of course,
Mm.
that that's not the case. So,
Oh, it is. It is not the case.
yeah.
So here's the way it happened. Basically, that year of severance, got me into working, with, basically on myself first, and then I found this brand without even knowing that it was a brand, and then I became like a success story for this company. And it happened to be a company that was looking to launch their Hispanic market. And then they were looking for somebody who could be a testimonial. And I actually like flew myself into this event. And that's how I learned about it. So once again, the little Jessica in me on like, hey, there's gotta be more.
Yeah.
So when I saw that the Hispanic market was not even in the map, and I had that success story with their weight loss products, I'm like, I volunteer. Like, what needs to be done? So that actually gave me the foundation to see how can you launch a new product,
Mhm.
how can you create culture? How can you create an online business? All of that was so new to me. In fact, I put myself back into a certification program to learn how attraction marketing worked. This is around the time when Facebook was becoming popular. And I was like full of doubt because it was something that I had never done before. So the long story short of that is I did work for this company and then truly helped me to see in the first row how to launch products. We sold millions of dollars and it was all about community. It was all about really talk about stories and promoting a cause. From there, I realized that I could live anywhere. By then, my business had replaced my low firm income. And I felt really confident. Still, I didn't give away my license. I still had my plan B.
Yeah.
So I basically pursued my plan A until like 2016, actually, when I was like, what am I doing? I'm not going to go back. There's no way I'm going to go back. And I just surrender my license. But basically, so here, when I moved to Texas, I wanted to expand my online business and I was missing the in person component. Being from an island, you are so much into like meeting people. We were living in Connecticut and I really love the fall season, but winters were not my friend. And I was having a hard time to make friends. So I was missing that component. And Texas was calling us, and I said yes to that, not knowing that it was going to give me the missing piece, which was community. Once I opened my space to just meet people, I realized that there was something missing here in Austin. There's so many networking groups that you can truly go to 3 events in a day, and if you really want to meet, let's say 1,000 people in a week, oh, you can. Yeah. There's an event everywhere. Starting with like BNI groups, they meet for breakfast, for lunch every single week. And then so I kind of like, climbed the ladder in the sense of understanding what were the dynamics on meeting people. And I realized that a lot of the networking for professionals was very structured. So the Puerto Rican in me, I'm like, this is kind of too boring. We need to bring some sort of like social spices into
Something
this.
lively. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, I invited all my business networking friends and I said, let's just go for happy hour. Let's just go for happy hour. In fact, that's how I met my best client in construction law. It was at a happy hour. The question I told you that I asked, it was that. So I'm like, the best experiences, the best connections I have met, they haven't really been in a structured environment where somebody tells you, oh, how many referrals are you bringing today? Doesn't really work like that. So, with that in mind, I basically invited my friends for happy hour. And this is, again, before the pandemic. It's been 8 years now. And then it became a thing, it became a group, a community. And around that time, I was only doing consulting for brands, I was not doing implementation. I was referring a lot of business to other agencies.
Oh.
So that's actually how my brand marketing for greatness was like a study or a learning center,
Mm.
right? Marketing for greatness then joined an SEO company. And then basically we created like a sub name. It was MFG or MFG SEO. And actually that brand closed last year and I was able to redo basically and take back all the skills and everything and join my husband in a new venture. And it's kind of the beauty, right? When you have the skills, you have the name. I've always basically led with my name, my personal brand. So once people know you, and they know that, you are all about authenticity, they know your values and you get to support them. There's really little marketing that I need to do on my own, right? So we've been able to, my husband and I, we join forces. He brings the sales component, I bring the marketing and branding component, and we serve clients. And we have pivoted from what marketing for greatness was doing with, under that umbrella. In fact, I exited the partnership. And I needed to take a break. I needed to take a time to really think, okay, what's my next chapter?
Yeah.
What I'm going to do next. That pivot, that ladder, needs moments of silence, needs moments when you really need to sit down with, why did I start my business? I remember having these conversations with now my ex, business partners. I'm like, I just don't think, that that's how it's supposed to be. When you're starting a business, you need to be rooted with your why. And my why was never about like the money and was never about like, oh, let's have this, let's have that. So I'm like, you guys can keep going. I want to do my thing.
That's so important because I do think, that taking those moments of rest, like that year that you had when
Mhm.
you got the year of severance, to take some time to figure out what you want to do. I did that myself and it was a gift. Um, and I had the idea for my business probably early into the process, and I knew that I
Mhm.
just needed more time. I knew that I needed more time. I didn't know how to relax. I remember sharing this with you. I had
Uh-huh.
no idea. I hadn't sat and relaxed in so long that I forgot how to do it.
Yep.
I took
Yep.
that year and then launched my business with, so much energy and drive and clarity. So I'm
Yes.
glad that I took that time.
Yes, me too. Me too. That was for me 2024. In fact, it started with just me wanting, just to take a break. And it's funny though, because this is where, I'm a believer. So sometimes God steps in, it's like, okay, it's time. It's time. For me, as I was just doing this relax year of 2024, around September, my husband gets the decision that he was fired from his job. And there we are, losing that income. I'm like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
But once you have the formula, which nobody can take away from you, right? Like I know how to start something from nothing. So going back again. Okay, what if we give this a try? What if, we really need to pivot because, when we see marketing in the way that it was even a year ago, AI has truly impacted marketing agencies tremendously.
Yeah.
So in fact, the products that were being offered or the services that were being offered by the agency that I was working with, they don't even exist anymore. Like marketing gets done very differently now, especially hearing about Google ranking and all of that. That's why, like, I'm like, if we're going to do something, we really need to find what people need and what business owners need the most. So that restart started with me, like, really meeting the business owners and asking, hey, what do you think you're needing and how can I support you? And then both my husband and I would just go in, learn their KPIs, really lead with fractional CMO in the beginning and see like what they're needed. And then I'm like, okay, I can build you a custom project based on what you need. And we go from there. And little by little, you gain the trust until we realize, wait a second, we have 10 plus clients and they're all in this field. What if we just really rebrand and just, claim the name? The name now is Impact Line
Mhm.
Digital. And then we just truly work in demand generation for and growth marketing for health and wellness businesses.
Yeah,
But
very specific.
yeah, very specific, and it didn't happen overnight. But then it's one of those things that pivot, that jump. It's not something that you're gonna do overnight. But
No, no.
it's a
I
reflection.
agree. I think in the beginning when you start something that or my own experience was that, I started something and that I wanted to be more things to more people, not everything to everyone, but I wanted to be more things to more people. And as time has gone on, it's gotten narrower and narrower and narrower. And I'm better able to serve the clients that I have because of that. It works
Hmm.
better for me and it works better for them. So it's really a
Hmm.
win-win.
Hmm. Yes. And lately, when my clients ask me, like, what do you think my thing is? And I say, it's usually the thing that you did that impacted your business the most, because that is your core competency.
Mhm.
And then for me, actually, whenever I go back to, find like what is that thing, that spice or that touch, for me is community
Yeah.
because, I could be anybody can do the marketing thing, anybody can do the task, but how can you create community based marketing? How can you establish your name and your reputation and becoming somebody when you're nobody?
Yeah.
That's community for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so important, and it's so important to know that it's not just you going through something, to talk to other people who have gone through the same thing.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
I have another question for you. I know that you said in the beginning of your career, you didn't have a mentor. You didn't have, you were really charting this path on your own. So, do you have any mentors now, and do you mentor other people now?
Hmm. Hmm. So yes, I do have actually multiple mentors. I'm a big fan of mentorship, primarily because had it not be for a mentor in my life, um, I believe that yes, you will find a way. You definitely will find a way. But the question is, do you want to wait a decade to find the way, or or do
Maybe not.
or do you rather work with somebody that can truly reshape the way that you're working with, and then, find truly what you're missing? I feel like mentorship, it's all about finding like the blind spots and truly shaping and directing what is that blind spot for you.
Mhm.
So yes, I do mentor, and I have multiple mentors at the moment. Actually, like we at some point, with my husband and I for Impact Line Digital, we're like, okay, I think we have really perfected this area, but what will be our next level? How can we truly build, these to multiple seven figures and all that? So we work with an 8-figure agency, mentorship program.
Mhm.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, mentorship programs are great, and whenever you get somebody to see, you sometimes forget that you cannot read a label from the inside. Cannot. So you might think, oh, yeah, I know that. No, there's always a different perspective that can help you. So love doing that. Love also mentoring, people. That's actually one of the reasons why I don't necessarily get like leads from my Hey ATX community, but I get to pour back into meeting them. And yes, I mean, those are a mix of professionals, entrepreneurs from different levels or stages in their journey. And it makes me feel connected with why I do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important to feel that connection because we're not robots, that we do need to feel there's
Oh
emotion
my
behind
gosh.
it.
Oh my gosh. I'm one of those that during the pandemic, it was really difficult. It was very difficult that, we were breaking laws left and right. I'm like, I don't care. I need to meet people.
You need to see people and be around people. So,
Yeah.
I alluded to, we talked about a little bit about the boat burning. And I find that I'm reading it, I'm rereading the chapters. It's so inspirational. I love the
Mm.
chapter about, everything that you've accomplished. And so I do want to ask you, is there more coming? Because I do feel like there's more to the story.
I would say yes. It's been a great experience. I had attempted to write, my story multiple times, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And working with a publishing company, again, talking and bringing back the mentorship, working with somebody that's the only thing they do brings a whole different set of skills that make things feel doable, easy. We just had our book launch party last week actually, and it was so amazing to see the kind of like the audience and in real life. And there were actually dads that came to us and said, can you sign this because I want to give this to my daughters.
Oh,
um my daughter actually, my oldest daughter, she's 25, and she's like, can we get more copies of the book, because even for her, she had never seen the story being told in that way. So yeah, I definitely invite everybody to grab a copy of the book. It's a compilation of stories, but we were actually um, instructed and taught how to really share your story in a way that is creative
mhm.
and in a way that is just, it doesn't feel dry when you're reading it. It's not a blog. Actually, that was the thing that the publisher said. Of course, I was a very good student, so I'm turning in my chapter. I'm first, and she's like, Jessica wrote a very pretty blog.
But that's not what they wanted.
Well, then I learned when you're blogging, you're just kind of in a coach mode.
Yeah.
When you're writing a story is from the um show not tell, and then it's just a different skill set, writing a story from the creative side. I was just in the lawyer side. Oh, this happened, and then because of this, then this happened, and of course if you're reading this is what you need to do in your
Yes.
life. And they're like, no.
Well, the end result was wonderful. It really
Thank
was.
you. Thank you.
So whatever instructions they gave you, it worked really for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, it was a really, really nice program. I highly recommend any professional, right? Like when you wanna be known, the way that you share your story is going to be important because people will, you want to be intentional about what you want people to remember you for.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like this full circle moment because that's you shared your story, but you also continue to help businesses share their stories and do the
Hmm.
same thing.
Yes, I just realized that. Thank you.
Yes, yes, I love that. There's perfect, great symmetry to that.
Hmm.
Um, so I have one last question. This time has flown by.
Hmm.
What unexpected lessons or rewards have come from you going around your own ladder or really creating your own ladder rather than climbing that more traditional one? Something that just you did not expect to happen.
Yeah, I would say definitely the finances. When you have your path, the career path, it has these financial path where you have the benefits and you have, the path to start saving money and all of that. But when you have to create that on your own, you kind of need to put yourself back into school. With my husband and I, we needed to really like strip down a lot of things and unlearn a lot of things. Especially, we have 4 kids. It's not cheap. It's not easy. So when you're growing a company and then you have all of these, obligations, bootstrapping needs to be something that you master. So being really good with money, it's something that came unexpectedly because I was not aware of what I was not aware. Like you never know what you don't know. And when things are going well, you're like, oh, we say yes to everything. Everything is just super fun and entertaining. But um, when you really need to make something from nothing, that is where the true entrepreneurial skills are going to be to put to the test.
Yeah.
And that lesson, um, has come unexpectedly, right? Because in business you have ups and downs. You have ups and downs. Like the pandemic for real, like really interrupted my coaching business. AI interrupted the SEO agency that I was at. It was not easy. It really caught us by surprise, and it added so much pressure that really put the partnership into the test. And then, I was the first to say, like, it's just this is unbearable, right? We have to really rethink this. So yeah, those lessons don't come with flowers.
Yeah. But you learned them, you persevered, and here you still are. And I'm so glad that I got to meet you. I'm so glad that we got to talk about this. I would love, like I said, there's so much more. So I am reserving the right to, wait a year and then call you again and say, okay, let's talk again about what else you've been doing over the course of the past year, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun and very interesting. And also, like I said, helpful to other people
Yes.
because it's not easy starting a business. It's not easy making changes in your life. And
Hmm.
hearing stories about people who have done it, who have gone before you, I think is helpful to others who want to do the same.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been amazing. I hope they enjoy what we have shared.
Oh, I hope so too. I hope so too. Thank you. So everybody, thank you again for joining us. Remember, there's no one right way up. So take your detours, make your moves, keep carving your own path. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with a colleague, a friend, or somebody else who's on their own unconventional journey. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.